Thank you and welcome to the show for today. This morning, I have Chaplain Michael Davis here to discuss his background, education, and ultimately breaking chains for change in Tennessee youth. And so thank you, Mr. Davis, for joining me this morning.
Well, thank you for having me.
And just to start off this first segment, I want to talk about kind of your background in education. So just tell me a little about Michael.
Okay, so I'm originally from Murfreesboro. I tell everybody if you run into me, I'm kind of like an OG because there's not a lot of us originally from Murfreesboro. So I went to Riverdale High School, graduated many, many moons ago. Then I went to the military. So I'm the youngest of five. My mom had 5 kids, and I tell everybody that I'm the best looking of all of my siblings. It gets worse after me. I went to the military. Then my mom kind of raised us on her own. You know, my dad kind of stepped out of the picture when I was 6. And I tell everybody that that was kind of rough on me. But went to the military, got out of the military, lived in Virginia Beach for about 6 or 7 years, then came back to Lewisburg to become a police officer. It was a journey. I tell everybody I was really not the best student in school. So the Lord helped me out of high school, and I did go to college. I went for a while, but me and college just really didn't get along that well. So for me, my education was experience in reading books. And I read a ton of books. I got with people who were doing the things that I wanted to do and just set up under them. So a lot of my education is experience, reading books, and trial and error.
And I really want to know about your time in Lewisburg. I'm familiar with Lewisburg, Lewisburg from my grandfather working the circuit, the church circuit. And, you know, we'd travel down there and he'd preach, but kind of tell me what policing in Lewisburg looked like.
Really surprising, because I was a police officer back in the 90s. It was really busy. Like, a lot of people think Lewisburg, small town, not a lot really going on, but really, there was a lot of drug trafficking going on through there. It was really exciting. I was young, really young, made a lot of mistakes on the police force because I was fresh out of the Navy, moved back, me and my wife moved back, and but it was good. We have family members that live there, and you know, being young, carrying a gun, you know, being a police officer, you know, you just kind of just have your time down there. And I made a lot of mistakes. I did. I made a lot of mistakes, but I also learned a lot as a police officer. And that's where my passion for the youth came, because I ran into a lot of young people that were running away from home, a lot of young people that were dealing with stress in life, you know, and so that kind of built up my passion to really want to help the youth.
And now tell me, kind of, what did youth look like for you? What did you kind of experience or see around you as a teenager yourself? Okay,
for me, I did, so I'll reference again that my dad left when I was 6. And so I am a mature, seasoned young man now, and I haven't seen him since the day he left. So for me, that was trauma. You know, my mom trying to raise us by herself. And I had 2 older brothers and 2 older sisters. My older 2 brothers kind of took me under their wing a little bit, but, you know, with no father figure there, we were kind of wilding a little bit, I guess you want to say. And what I saw for me was I was hurting. You know, my mom may not have seen that, but, you know, seeing other men with their fathers and, you know, Father's Day, things like that, it just really kind of hurt. So I saw, for me, was like, there was a void that was missing, that I really needed my father in my life that I didn't have. And so kudos to my moms, you know, she did the best that she could, and she's provided for us, but I still figure. So as a young man, you know, I did a lot of stuff, you know, that we all done, things we shouldn't have been doing. I did, but one thing I know that I did, I really wanted to help my mom, you know, so when I became old enough to work, I'd go to work. You know, I'd buy my own school clothes, buy my own supplies, so she wouldn't have to take any money from the house.
And so I'm hearing a lot of that early maturity was kind of sprung onto you, but you embraced it.
I did.
And you made the most of it.
I did.
And in our second segment, we're going to get deeper into like those early experiences and that early teenagehood. And I encourage our viewers to tune into the second segment of Perspectives, where I'll be joined with Michael Davis to discuss breaking chains for change in Tennessee youth. Welcome to the second segment of the show for today. For viewers just tuning in, I'm joined this morning by Michael Davis, discussing his background, education, and ultimately breaking chains for change in Tennessee youth. Thank you again, Chaplain, for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
And just to kind of rehash our first segment, we talked about your early beginnings. We talked about your time in Lewisburg in the United States Navy. And we left off with kind of getting into your adolescence. We talked about, you dealing with things that all kids deal with, making mistakes, experiencing things, having to mature. And now I want to talk about what life in the Navy and kind of those early 20-ish years really looked like for Michael.
Well, for me, me and my wife, we married really, really early. So I was 21, she was 20. I tell her, we got married on a Friday in Murfreesboro, and we moved to Virginia on a Monday.
Oh, and yeah.
So it was just me and her. You know, we lived in Virginia. I was in the Navy. I enjoyed the Navy. It was fun. I traveled all over the world. Got to see a lot of places. Got to saw what true poverty looks like. And then just me and her just trying to survive in Virginia Beach as a young couple in the military, which was tough, but we survived. I got out of the military, then we moved to Newport News, and then I worked as a computer repair guy. This is in the early stages of computers, like, sending emails to each other. We was like, dude, you got an email? Like, yeah, I got one too. It's like, this is like the early stages of computers. And then my uncle that lived in Lewisburg, he was like, hey, I got a job opportunity for you to be on the police force. Would you take it? And my wife was like, yeah, we'll take it. Look, I didn't say it. She said, yeah, we'll take it. So that brought her back home. And so, like I said, being on the police force just gave me an opportunity to grow even more as a man and to able to see things on the other side, to have that opportunity to deal with young people.
And now, taking these experiences, you've seen what the community needs. Well, actually, to really specify, what kind of trends and what things were you seeing amongst youth that were really kind of, in a sense, pulling them down? At
that time, in the late 90s, it was just, it was amazing to me how the family dynamic kind of worked, with the single moms living at home by themselves. And the young people were wanting to find their identity. And so a lot of them wanted to find it through, unfortunately, through using drugs or alcohol. And some of them just ran away because they wanted to find who they were. So I would run into a lot of kids late at night that were running away from home, just having these conversations with them, just asking them what were they looking for, what were they wanting, and just having them tell me that they just really wanted to find themselves and find a space where they could be themselves. A whole lot of wanting their fathers, wanting those answers, where are you? Why are you not here? Why does mom keep saying, you just like your daddy? And I don't want to be like my dad, but unfortunately I'm ending up like my dad. And so just having those young people ask those questions and just having those conversations with them, I started saying, well, I used to be there. Like I was there, like I felt that same void and I had those same questions like, where's my dad? Like, why did he not want to be in my life? Like, what did I do that he said that I don't want to be there? And so I related. And so we would have these conversations and we would talk and they'd be like, Officer Davis at the time, they'd be like, Officer Davis, you know what I'm talking about? Like, dude, I feel you. Like, because I was there. I'm walked in your shoes. But here's what I did to help myself to overcome. And so then that just started building bridges and just, things just kept working out like that.
And now tell me about your religious background. I know that you are now a chaplain. You're a chaplain, Michael Davis.
Yes.
But I want to talk about those early beginnings in the church.
Oh, man. They were rough. I'm not going to lie. They were rough. So I felt God was calling me to do something. I didn't know what it was. And growing up in the black church, when the first time you say, like, I believe God is calling me to do something, oh yeah, you're gonna be preaching. Like you a preacher. You got
a word on you.
Yeah, you got a word on you. You're gonna be a pastor, But I didn't really feel that. Like I just felt like God wanted me to do something. And so my wife was in a church, and so when I say she was in a church, but we grew up into two separate churches. But when we married, I just went to her church. And just going to church and following God and listening to his voice. One night I just broke. Like I was at Bible study and I just broke. Like I just cried and just cried and cried. And so my pastor was like, hey, let's have some conversations. And so I accepted my call into the ministry, and I preached and was assistant pastor, sung on the praise team, did all of those things at my first church, and then we went to another church, kept doing the same thing, and then I went to Bridgestone Firestone, and was working there for 11 years. And I was like, okay, God, what's up? This ain't, you didn't call me to ministry to work at Bridgestone, did you? But he really did. Like, when I was at Bridgestone, had the opportunity to really minister to a lot of people that were hurting and was broken. And so then I got laid off. I don't even want to talk about it, but it opened up a window for me to go and become a inner city pastor at one of the churches in Murfreesboro. Man, that was like, you take a hardcore brother from the streets, and then I become
in Murfreesboro.
Yeah, Murfreesboro. So the church there, could I say the name of the church?
Yeah.
So it was New Vision Church. So
where Jeff Schicks is.
No, I don't think he's at New Vision in Murfreesboro. I'm not sure where he's at.
He's out Antioch.
Okay, so I started at First Baptist, then I went to Upon This Rock, then I went to New Vision. So they graciously opened their arms for me to come in and be the inner city pastor. I was there for 11 years.
Wow.
And it was great. I mean, I ministered in the community, talked to a lot of people. Then one day, someone from the juvenile detention center comes in and say, hey, Pastor Mike, I heard you've been doing a lot of stuff in the community. We need you to come and talk to the young people at the juvenile detention center. I was like, bet. So I go. I started one day a week. After a month, they was like, Pastor Mike, these kids keep asking for you. Can you come 2 days a week? So I started 2 days a week. They was like, okay, Pastor Mike, they're just dying to talk to you. Can you come 3 days a week? I was like, no, I can't do 3. I'm like, I do have a job. But I started a foundation, which me and my wife run. And I was like, you know what? I really want to do the foundation full time. So I graciously left the church. The same day I left the church, the juvenile detention called me and said, hey, you've been working here, volunteering for so long. We want to offer you a position to come on board part-time. I was like, what? So that's kind of how it happened. And that's your beginnings
into the juvenile detention center. And Pastor, in our third segment, our final segment, we're going to come back with just your experiences with religion and specifically preaching to those incarcerated. And we're going to talk about that foundation, the Nicholas Foundation. And we're going to describe what that does and what you and your wife do for the community and the impact that you all want to have on Nashville. I encourage our viewers to tune into the final segment of Perspectives, where we'll be discussing breaking chains for change in Tennessee youth. Welcome to the final segment of the show for today. For viewers just tuning in, I'm joined this morning by Michael Davis, chaplain, founder of the Nicholas Foundation, and a local mentor and law enforcement officer who is here to discuss his background, his history, education, and ultimately breaking chains for change in Tennessee youth. So Chaplain, just to pick back up where we left off at, in our second segment, we ended talking about the foundation that you and your wife started. In addition to the fact that you've just begun your actual career, you've been volunteering, you've just begun a career in corrections. And so tell me just about what that looked like, juggling both those things, your early beginnings, both in the Juvenile Detention Center as well as with the Nicholas Foundation.
Yeah, so at the very beginning, so let me explain. So the Nicholas Foundation came out of my wife's brother who passed away it's been 15, 16 years ago. So he really was a great young man, and he and I had lots of conversations, unfortunately, during the time when he was getting ready to pass. And so one of the things me and him talked about was this father relationship that we both kind of wanted. And I felt really bad because I really didn't step into his life when I had those opportunities. So when he passed away, me and my wife was like, we really want to do something to honor him. So we created the Nicholas Foundation. At the early stages, we were mentoring. We were in the school systems. We were in the elementary schools. I was able to go in and mentor about 60 kids. I had about 30 volunteers. We'd go in early in the morning, and we would just mentor kids. We did that until COVID hit. Man, COVID was rough. COVID shut everything down, which and then the schools really didn't let us back in the way that we kind of wanted to. So me and my wife was like, but we still want to make an impact on the young people in Murfreesboro, Rutherford County, because that's where we live. So we turned to giving away scholarship money. So now what we do, we give away scholarship money to young people that are trying to further their education. It doesn't have to be college, because everybody don't go to college. It could be a trade school, or you could go to be a beauty tech or a barber school, anywhere that you're trying to further your education. But the one thing that we do differently is that we look for young people who have GPAs that start at 2.5, and your household income cannot be over 50,000. So we really try to make sure we're targeting the kids that really want to go to school. Yes. And so this year we're actually adding a mentor with your scholarship for your first year of college. So when you win a scholarship, you win a mentor that will walk with you your first year of college.
Man, and about how many people do y'all have working for the Nicholas Foundation?
You see them all right here. Me and plus my board. The board that I have, they are a tremendous board. They work with me, and we just kind of really plug into the schools. We're really trying to plug in with the guidance counselors to really target those kids that want to go. So we're still early in that stage. So this is really just our second year, actually, our third year of doing that. So when I quit New Vision and started the foundation, trying to juggle both of those was really hard at first. But then my board just really helped me, and they kind of really helped me formulate everything that I needed. And so now we're just kind of up and running, and we're just, loving giving away money.
And tell me, Pastor, this is awesome. How do you juggle this with still working with youth in corrections? Or I say, how has the Nicholas Foundation been able to help you work with these children in corrections?
Well, in corrections, it's a little bit different, because when I'm working in corrections, I have opportunity to have one-on-one conversations with the young people, male and female. And one thing that I really hear a lot is it's painful. They're fathers. Like, we need to know and understand that fathers are really important in the community. So a lot of these young men are frustrated with their fathers because they're not there. Even though they're living in the house, they're still not there, or they're incarcerated, or they're kind of like my situation. Fathers just don't want to be in their life. So they're angry and they're frustrated, they're upset. The young ladies have the same problems because dads are not there. And so they're mad and they're frustrated, and they take it out on some of the things that they do. We love moms. Moms are great. We love them. But, if you have a son that's 6'2" and 250, and, what you going to really do with him? Like, if he decides to go do what he wants to do,
you can't stop him.
You really can't stop him. And so those fathers really need to be there. So for me, I love being in the juvenile detention center, because I can talk to these young men and say, I know exactly how you feel, because you're saying exactly what I said when I was your age about my dad and the frustration and the bitterness that you have. But I want to help you break that. The sooner I can get you to break that relationship, to say, God says the first thing you have to really do is, and I know this is a tough thing when I say this, you're going to have to forgive your father. Oh, Pastor Mike, I ain't doing that.
I can't do that.
I can't do that. But I'm like, but once you forgive him, it breaks that tie. Because here's the weird thing. Your father's not even in your life, but he's still controlling you. So break that so that you can move forward. So we talk about breaking chains so that I can move forward without dragging this bitterness, unforgiveness, this hate, this frustration of my dad and us not having those relationships.
And I got a two-part question for this part, because this is just awesome. One, the conversations you're having with incarcerated youth, they've already, in their heads, they've hit rock bottom. There's no coming up from that. I know that it's a little different to mentor those youth than like youth on the outside, but tell me about some of the common things that you see or hear with your youth that are incarcerated. Then we'll talk about your youth in, in the schools, on the streets. But tell me, what are some of the kind of attitudes, aside from that bitterness and anger, attitudes about life and about self? Are you seeing more boys who want to get out and go back to school? Are they ready to get out and go crazier? What are you kind of seeing with the youth?
So what I see, like I said, when I talk to them, it's one-on-one, and it's just me and them. So you get the heart of what they really want. And a lot of these young men really want to have a successful life. But you know, they go back to their communities, they go back to their environment, and so they kind of blend back in with what's going on. But when I'm talking to them, it's Pastor Mike, what do I really need? And the first thing I tell them is, man, you just got to break that chain. Like, let God help you break that chain, because if you could break it on your own, you'd have done it a long time ago.
You're right.
But you can't. And I had a mentor, and one of the things he taught me was protect your future, not your feelings. Protect your future, not your feelings. And so a lot of these young people are protecting their feelings. So they put up their hands, or they'll pull out a gun, or they want to fight, because really they have feelings that are really hurting them, but they rather protect the feeling than to think about, I want to go and do these things. Like, a lot of young people say, Pastor Mike, I'm going to go to the league. I'm going to the league. And I'm like, really, you are? But how you gonna go to the league? You ain't even on your high school football team. Like, you can't even stay on your football team in high school. So, and I say, listen, man, don't let your athletics open doors that your academics close. And they was like, what do you mean by that? Like, dude, you're a talented athlete, but dude, you don't go to school. Your grades are terrible. So what I see is that they really want to have a good life, but they struggle with their feelings and their thoughts and these chains that they're dragging along with them. So I try to teach them that God really just wants you to break those chains by your mind. You know, Romans 12.
Let go of your baggage.
Yeah, like Romans 12:2 says, don't conform to the patterns of this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So you have to think and look at life differently.
And Pastor, what is just one thing that you would like to leave with our viewers, both the youth and adults, children watching this, who are experiencing those chains? What do you want to leave with them?
I want to leave with them is that, you know, we have to work on those things, and addressing those things are hurtful. You know, when I think about my dad, and it hurts me, but I have to address that to move forward. You know, I wrote a workbook that talks about breaking chains for change, and I'll hopefully get that published here soon. But that's the biggest thing that I tell them, is that you have to work on that. And as much as it hurts on the inside, trust me, on the other side, your life is going to be better. So if you can forgive your dad, move on, then let go of some other things, man, your life could be different. And just looking at life in a different light, and stop protecting your feelings and push forward towards your future.
Protect that future.
Yes.
And with that being said, thank you, Mr. Davis, for the words that you've shared both with me and with our viewers. I'm extremely touched by this, and I know that they are as well, and I truly appreciate the work that you do with Tennessee youth.
Well, thank you.
To our viewers, thank you for tuning into Perspectives this morning, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share one more perspective. Thank you and good morning.